If you're broke at 25, it's not because life was unfair. It's because you made choices that led you here. Poverty at this age is not a permanent curse. It's a reflection of habits, mindset, and how you've chosen to spend your most valuable currency, time. You had 18 years of free education, 7 years of adult freedom, unlimited access to information, and tools in your pocket that kings from centuries ago would have killed for. And yet, if you're still blaming circumstances, you're missing the entire point. Because poverty at 25 is not a condition. It's a choice. Not a choice made in a single day, but one made moment by moment, excuse by excuse, comfort by comfort. Every time you picked sleep over hustle, every hour spent scrolling instead of learning, every plan you postponed for tomorrow, it all added up. People love to act like success is some mysterious force that visits a chosen few. But the truth is, success starts where excuses end. The broke 25-year-old is often not lacking in talent or opportunity, but in clarity and drive. They mistake movement for progress and confuse activity with productivity. They talk about goals, but live by emotion. They wait for motivation and wonder why nothing changes. The world doesn't reward intention. It rewards execution. Everyone wants to be rich, but few are willing to do what's required when it's hard, when it's boring, when no one is clapping. You had time, you had health, you had access, but did you have urgency? Did you treat every day like it mattered? Or did you waste it thinking, I've got time? That mindset is what keeps most people poor, because they don't realize that while they were waiting for the right moment, someone else with less talent, fewer connections, and more hunger already passed them. The greatest wealth begins with a disciplined mind. You can be surrounded by books, mentors, technology, and still end up broke if your thoughts are undisciplined, if your emotions run your schedule, if your fear is louder than your ambition. Every rich man was once unknown, unseen, and unpaid. But what made him different was what he did with the quiet years. He trained his mind like a soldier. He said no to temporary pleasure so he could build long-term power. He didn't seek comfort. He sought correction, clarity, and control. The disciplined mind doesn't chase trends. It builds value. It wakes up early, shows up prepared, and doesn't waste time needing to feel ready. It understands that no one is coming to rescue it, that the world owes it nothing, and so it goes to work, again and again, quietly, consistently, without applause. That's the mind that earns freedom. That's the mind that builds wealth, not someday, but starting now, because every minute matters. When you know what you're building, every small choice today echoes in your future. And if you're broke at 25, the mirror holds both the problem and the solution. If you have time, energy, and access to information, you have no excuse. This generation is sitting on the most powerful tools in human history, yet most people use them to scroll instead of build. You've got a smartphone more powerful than NASA's computers during the moon landing, free access to the world's knowledge through the internet, and social platforms that can turn any idea into a six-figure income. And still you say, I don't know where to start. That statement is not a truth. It's a trap. It's a sign of mental laziness, disguised as confusion. Because the truth is, you do know. You just don't want to begin without certainty. And that fear is what keeps you stuck. Time is not your friend if you don't respect it. Every hour you waste now is an investment in your future failure. You say you want success, but your calendar is filled with distraction, entertainment, and escape. And still you wonder why you're behind. The man who uses his time for comfort will always serve the man who used his time for purpose. The energy you spend watching others live their dreams could be used to build your own, but that requires responsibility. And most people fear that more than failure, because once you accept that you have everything you need to start, you can no longer hide behind excuses. A man who waits for opportunity will always be employed by the man who created it. There are two types of people: those who watch and those who build. The watchers wait. They wait for the job, the connection, the lucky break. They pray for a door to open instead of building their own. They believe success is a matter of timing, not of decision. But the builders, they're too busy creating opportunities to worry about being chosen. They don't wait for things to be perfect. They take imperfect steps and fix them along the way. And in that movement, they find momentum. In that momentum, they find results. If you're 25 and broke and still waiting for someone to give you a chance, you're already behind. The world rewards those who take chances, not those who wait for them. The man who builds doesn't complain about his lack of resources. He becomes resourceful. He doesn't care if no one supports him. He supports his vision until others catch on. He doesn't need permission to rise. He decides to rise. Waiting is the language of the weak. Building is the language of the free. So ask yourself, are you watching others live, or are you creating something worth watching? Because every day you wait, someone with less talent, less support, and fewer tools is turning action into results. They're not smarter than you. They're just more committed. And that's all it takes. Not genius, not perfection, just the courage to move, to start, to fail, and to keep going until something gives. Riches begin in the form of thought, but they require action, persistence, and vision. Every fortune that's ever been built started in the mind of someone who refused to accept average. It was born from an idea, a burning desire, and a clear mental picture of a life far beyond what they saw around them. But thought alone is not enough. That's where most people get it wrong. They think dreaming is the same as building. But dreaming without action is fantasy. It feels good. It sounds inspiring, but it produces nothing. Wealth does not respond to your wishes. It responds to your willingness to act when no one believes in you, to push when nothing is working, and to hold the vision even when the world calls you delusional. You see, the man who becomes rich doesn't necessarily start with money. He starts with direction. He knows what he wants. He writes it down. He visualizes it until it becomes real in his imagination. But then he does what most won't. He moves. He acts on the vision. He learns, he fails. He repeats. He adapts. He falls in love with the process more than the prize. And because of that, he earns what others only dream about. He doesn't hope. He builds. He doesn't wish. He works. And that work, driven by thought and shaped by purpose, becomes wealth in time. Temporary defeat is not failure, but accepting it without a fight is. This is where most people fall apart. The moment they face a setback, they take it as a sign to quit. They interpret a no as a closed door instead of a challenge to grow stronger. But every person who has ever achieved anything worthwhile has tasted defeat, sometimes again and again. The difference is they didn't stay down. They understood that defeat is part of the curriculum. That failure is the tuition you pay for the lessons success demands. They got back up not because it was easy, but because the vision inside them was louder than the voice telling them to quit. You will be tested. You will be ignored. You will be misunderstood. But none of that makes you a failure unless you decide to stop. The world will not hand you wealth simply because you want it. It will test your patience, your character, and your resilience. And every time you keep going, you become harder to stop. You build the muscle of persistence, and that becomes your edge. Because most people won't do that. Most people stop at the first sign of discomfort. But not you. You keep pressing forward. Not because the path is easy, but because the result is worth every bruise, every late night, every rejection. That's what separates those who stay broke from those who rise. Not perfection, not luck, just relentless forward motion, powered by a vision too strong to die. If your circle isn't building you, it's breaking you. The people you surround yourself with are either bricks in your foundation or holes in your boat. And if you're broke at 25, One of the biggest reasons could be the energy you allow around you. You become like the people you spend the most time with. Not because you try to, but because human nature adapts to its environment. If your circle talks more about entertainment than execution, more about others than themselves, more about escape than elevation, you're being programmed to lose. And the worst part, it feels normal. You won't even notice it. Because failure in a comfortable group looks like loyalty. But loyalty to the wrong tribe is betrayal to your potential. Success is not just about mindset. It's about environment. If the people in your life don't challenge your thinking, hold you accountable, or push you to be more, then what are they really doing? If they only clap when you're comfortable, they're not friends, they're enablers. Real allies correct you when you're slipping. They speak truth, not just support. And if no one in your life is uncomfortable when you talk about growth, then you're not talking big enough. You need people who make you level up just by being in the room. People whose presence demands focus, whose grind reminds you to work harder. Because the wrong crowd will keep you poor in more than just money. They'll rob you of discipline, drive, and dreams. The man who blames others for his lack will never gain power over his future. There is no transformation without ownership. If you're broke, it's not your parents, it's not the government, it's not your past. The moment you point a finger, you give away your power. Blame is the easiest way to stay stuck, because it makes you feel like the victim. And victims don't build. They wait, they hope, they complain. But nothing changes until you own the truth. Where you are right now is a direct result of your decisions. Taking full responsibility doesn't mean everything was your fault. It means everything is now your responsibility. And that mindset is dangerous to failure. Because once you believe it's on you, you stop waiting for help. You stop asking for permission. You stop living like someone owes you something. You wake up with clarity. You move with urgency. You take hits and learn fast. And because of that, life starts opening doors. Not because it got easier, but because you got stronger. There are two types of people in this world. Those who make excuses, and those who make adjustments. Both are always justifying their reality. One to stay the same, and one to grow. The difference is power. One remains broke and bitter, blaming the world. The other builds in silence, learns from failure, and keeps showing up. That's the man who eventually wins, not because he had the best start, but because he took full control of where he finishes. Success demands sacrifice of time, comfort, and pleasure. The world you dream of building will not be handed to you while you cling to the habits of a soft life. If you're 25 and broke, it's because somewhere along the line you chose temporary pleasure over long-term payoff. You chose the extra sleep, the party, the weekend trip, the lazy scroll. And now you're living the result of those decisions. Every hour you give to comfort is an hour stolen from your future self. People want freedom but won't give up their distractions. They want wealth but can't sacrifice the Friday night vibe. They want results without resistance. But you cannot keep feeding comfort and expect greatness to grow from it. The price of success is discomfort. It's missing out on things now to cash in later. It's waking up before the sun, because your dream is louder than your fatigue. It's working when others are relaxing, reading when others are partying, investing when others are spending. If your life is full of ease, then your future is likely empty. But if your days are full of structure, sweat, and struggle, then you're planting seeds that will grow into something extraordinary. Most people never make it, not because they're not capable, but because they refuse to pay the price. They want the prize without the process. Wealth is not built in convenience. It is built in the furnace of discipline. The world respects those who endure, those who persist when quitting is easier, those who show up when no one is watching. Discipline is the quiet force that multiplies your effort. It's not glamorous. It won't get likes, but it will get results. The disciplined man becomes dangerous, not because he's the smartest, but because he does what needs to be done, whether he feels like it or not. He doesn't skip because it's hard. He doesn't fold when it's slow. He moves with intention. And over time, That movement compounds into results no one can ignore. Most people chase comfort and end up chasing money their whole lives. But those who embrace the grind, who schedule their hours with purpose, who say no more than they say yes, they become the architects of their own economy. They stop waiting for raises and start building income streams. They stop living for weekends and start living on their own terms. Discipline makes this possible. It gives you leverage. It sharpens your focus. It separates you from the masses who are always reacting, always waiting, always wishing. The man who embraces sacrifice today owns freedom tomorrow. While others spend years recovering from wasted youth, the disciplined man builds silently, strategically, relentlessly. And when the results come, they seem sudden to everyone else, but to him they're simply the reward for years of sacrifice. That's the truth most people never learn. Success isn't a secret, it's just not convenient. And the ones willing to be uncomfortable now are the ones who will live comfortably later.